Welcome to BAM, Badass Moms with Lori and Jenny. We are moms on a mission to share women's stories about life, fitness, aging, relationships, travel, and much more. Hello, friends, and thanks for listening. I just wanted to take a second to give you a quick reminder about subscribing to the show. If you have not already, just take a moment and do so. This will make sure that you never miss a daily bite or an upcoming episode. And in addition to that, if you have a few extra moments and like to drop us a review, we'd really appreciate it. And there's also a sponsor of the show located at the bottom of all of our episodes. Once again, thank you for listening. Thank you for being badass. Hello, friends, and thanks for joining us on another episode of The BAM. Today, we have such a super special guest, Annamarie. Her interview sent chills. I just had chills the whole entire time. She's such a wonderful woman with such a, transformational journey. She has turned her own personal tragedy into a catalyst for discovering her unique gifts even more and empowering others. She's been a teacher. Now she is a grief counselor. Her path has been filled with twists and turns and profound insights into the human spirit. Get ready to be inspired. Annamarie is amazing, and we are so excited to share her journey with you all today. Welcome, Annamarie, to the show. We're very excited to have you here today. Jenny, why don't you tell us a little bit about Annamarie, and then we'll get her rolling.
Yes. So Annamarie and I met because a good friend of mine actually lost her daughter at the age of 4. It was, she was 4 years old, 16 years ago, 17 years ago, 16, something like that. So, and Annamarie, I believe at the time, and you can correct me, was a grief therapist and teacher at Regis. Is that right?
Yeah, I was a professor at Regis and I taught the grief therapy and life transitions course. Yeah. And she was in it was a course that they had to pass to get into the program.
Yeah. And she went like full in, like she had just lost her daughter and went right into this program, which was, the woman is remarkable anyway, but then I met Annamarie and just adored her from the first second. And so I've been so excited to have you on the show. And I've already told you that, but I'm so excited to have you because you just have this amazing background. And you also have this wonderful way about you that is so nurturing and caring and kind. And I want the world to see that as well. So
you're sweet.
So Annamarie, tell us, a grief counselor, so kind of walk us through your journey of you're a professor, how you got there, how you kind of got into that arena.
Well, it's, I earlier this week, I wrote down everything from my first job and I thought, oh my God.
That had to be so cool.
Look what you've done. So just briefly, my very first kind of real job was a teacher, 7th and 8th grade in a Catholic school in New Mexico, where I'm from. And then I met my now husband and moved to Denver. And so I've been an accounting clerk, financial analyst, HR manager, then went back to school and got a master's in counseling with an emphasis in business and industry. Because at the time, we were both at one time in the oil industry. Okay. And we experienced 5 layoffs between us in just a couple of years. So I thought, oh my gosh. I can remember driving down 6th Avenue a long, long time ago, and I heard this voice say, you got to go back to school. You got to get something you're already gifted in, and you got to help take care of this little family. Because at the time we had 2 little kids and a brand new mortgage payment. And at one time we were both laid off at the same time.
Oh God.
So I did the master's degree. I left corporate America. I created my own consulting company and I consulted all over the US and Canada for many, many years until probably 1995, when my niece of 17 years was killed in a car accident. And that just rocked my world and turned everything upside down. And I prayed that I wouldn't have any clients because there was no way I could get in front of anybody at the time, right? So the consulting wound down, but what's so interesting is she departed in June of 1995. So in January of 95, I applied to a PhD program at Pacifica Graduate Institute in Santa Barbara, really Carpinteria, in clinical psych with an emphasis in depth psychology. I also, in that January, had a dream at night. And the dream was, I said in the dream, I can't turn 40 because I've never gotten married or had children. And I thought, I didn't know anything about dreams then.
Yeah.
And I thought, what the heck is this about? But it became a recurring dream. And there were crowds of people and more people. And closer to end of June, I'm shouting, I can't turn 40. I never got married or had children. So.
And you were married with kids at that point.
I was married with kids, turning 40 But on June 28th, 1995, my niece Jennifer turned and flipped her car on I-40.
Oof.
She never got married or had children.
Oh my God.
So it was a prophetic dream. And I thought, what is going on with me? Why did I know that? And why didn't I warn her?
Interesting.
Because of course I didn't know.
Yeah.
But I also thought, what do I have? What's going on with me?
Yeah.
And that was my very first, I guess, introduction to being empath, highly intuitive, medium.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very
And
interesting.
why did I have that dream? Why did it come to me? I don't know.
So Annamarie, can I interrupt you real
Sure.
quick? Can you dial that in a little bit more for what you just said? Because that was a lot of words, like the medium and kind of what that means for people. Because
Sure. It's so common language for me.
Yeah.
It's just intuitively knowing a lot. I mean, so I will have patients in my practice and I can see what's coming for them intuitively. And I just know stuff. I know a lot of stuff. Same with when I was teaching. I can read people's emotional lives.
Wow. That's incredible. And it's scary, right?
Well, it was eventually. It was very hard on me because I would start to sense and feel tragedies coming, right? Like right before 9/11, right before Columbine, I can remember walking 10 miles, and the only reason I stopped because of this anxiety is because my feet hurt. And then it was either the next day or the day after that Columbine
You just
happened.
feel this unease in your body.
So I would know when something's coming, but it would just rack my body. And then the anxiety's lifted,
Wow.
So I had to learn how to work with that and realize I couldn't save anybody.
Yeah.
I'm not that powerful, but I could pray that their souls are taken quickly.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the more grounded I've gotten, and this is my biggest gift as a therapist, and it was as a professor, is knowing.
Mm-hmm.
Not up here, not in my head, but in my gut, my intuition. It's my biggest tool next to dream tending.
I will bring her my dreams all the time. And I'm like, what does this one mean? What does this one mean?
I'm always running late in my dreams. I don't know what that means, but it's like consistent.
I know right away, but we won't go into that.
Oh man, that's for another show. Yeah, I'm always late. Hopefully it's a good thing.
And the second tool is dream tending in my practice. And I do these women's retreats I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but that's okay, in Peru and Italy. And I do dream tending mornings, and I am spot on with everybody's dream. And there's women that I don't know intimately that are on these retreats. And I just know. And I'm so grateful for that gift because it is a gift. It's no longer a curse at all. I don't know. I guess it's just part of me now. Right.
Yeah. Cause that has to be heavy at first, like to carry all of that.
Oh, it was horrid. And then I kind of have like flu-like symptoms after because of caring and knowing.
Yeah.
Maybe I got the information so I could be available for people when it happened. So my son was at Mullen, and a lot of kids there had siblings at Columbine when Columbine happened. So there I was the next day at Mullen doing grief counseling when really it was shock therapy tending.
Dang, yeah.
Because that was way too early to even think about grief. But I was there completely contained because it's like I'd already suffered it.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that interesting?
You had processed it and now everybody else was just catching up. Yeah.
Yeah. And I already felt it in my body. And so I could be available. So, the same thing with 9/11. And that's not happening so much for me anymore, which I'm kind of grateful for, the big tragedies, right?
Yeah.
And on some level, I know what's happening collectively.
Yeah.
So you won't find me out in the public very often. I can't afford it.
Yeah.
My sensitivity.
You just take in everything around you.
Well, and as much as I, try to insulate, it's like the worst is the airport.
Oh, God.
Because if I see someone, I can tell you what their emotional life is.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I have to have blinders on.
Yeah.
Because it's such an automatic response.
So, Annamarie, at what age did you have any of these feelings at a younger age and just weren't able to interpret them? Or was there a certain kind of
as a little girl, I knew things, and I was a little girl and I was Catholic.
So you couldn't feel it.
You keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
And, and I'm of Middle Eastern descent as well. I'm half Lebanese. And there's a lot of mysticism in that culture. So I'm not surprised how it came to me. And my daughter has the same gift.
I was going to say, is there some, in your background, in your family history? I mean, in your daughter, that's incredible.
Yeah.
When did she share this with you?
Ancestors. Did you have any ancestors that had?
I must have. I'm thinking my father's mother, who I never knew because she was already departed. Her name was Latifi, and she was 100% Lebanese. But my connection with her is she was so incredibly nurturing, is my guess.
Yeah.
She had these amazing vegetable gardens, so I guess I don't need to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
About any ancestors. It's with me, and I best be using it the way I need to use it.
Yeah. Which has shifted through the years.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I'm very grounded in it. Very grounded in it. It's very helpful.
Yeah.
So with your daughter, so when did she start to kind of realize she had this gift? And then have you been able to help guide her?
Oh, yeah.
Her
she is so open, and she knows stuff too. And what I love so much is we have 2 grandchildren, her children, Henry and Ophelia, and she supports listening to their dreams at night.
Aww.
And we're very, I got them on the moon and the stars and how important those are. And so that's all feminine, and that's all, intuition is feminine. It has nothing to do with the masculine, like grief. Yeah. Grief is not logical or linear. It's completely feminine, and all it asks is for us to feel. That's it. It's not rocket science. But in this culture, we'll do anything but do it. We'll do anything but feel that pain, because we can get stuff from Amazon this afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah. Or watch TV, or like distract yourself in a billion different ways.
Yeah. Yeah. So the PhD, I finished that. That was great. It was incredibly healing for me. And then I became a faculty member at Regis University in the Master's in Counseling program for 16 years.
Oh, wow.
Which I loved. I loved the students.
Yeah.
I was part-time because I wasn't gifted in administrative and running committees, and I was there to teach.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And I absolutely adored it, the students. I adored the students. And that all came to a screeching halt when in 2017, our beautiful son, Mark, died suddenly on October 30th, 2017. And so at the time, I took 5 months off of my private practice, which I've had since 1991, 33 years worth.
Wow. Yeah.
And I took about 7 months off of teaching. And I just didn't know if I could return to either one. I knew for sure I couldn't be a therapist anymore. There was no way I could tend or take in anybody suffering.
Mm-hmm.
So I returned to teaching just to see. But I told myself, even before Mark departed, once my passion is gone,
Yeah.
the passion that I have and how I want to show up, I'm retiring. And I gave it a good run. And so it just wasn't there anymore. And I did the right thing. I really did. So I retired just in time, January 2020, because I would have never taught online.
Oh, yeah. Right? Yeah.
Never. And then my practice, I returned to my practice to close it.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely. And, I'm kind of watching myself in these sessions and I'm thinking, gosh, I'm really contained. And this is kind of working. What is going on? So I told myself the problem was I was seeing too many people.
Yeah.
So I made a deal with myself that I would only see 5 people a week instead of 12 to 14. And then take it from there. And obviously it's worked beautifully. I'm back to 12 to 14 people, and I absolutely love being a therapist. My job here is service to others.
Yeah.
I'm a Virgo, service to others. And I will do that as long as that passion is there, because if we're passionate about anything, we have to do it because it impacts somebody in a very positive way. And so then I started these wonderful retreats, and I've been doing Peru retreats since 2017. I've taken 12 groups of women. It's a very spiritual retreat to Peru. And then I created the Italian retreat 22 years ago, but 9/11 happened. And I had this project called the PhD I was working on. So it didn't launch then. So it was supposed to launch in 2020. Nothing launched in 2020, but COVID.
Yeah.
So I was supposed to do 2021, the first one, it's outside of Florence in the May, and the second one was going to be in September of 2021. But Italy wasn't open in May of 2021. It did open up. So I did 2 back-to-back that fall of 2021. I've done 4 so far.
So the retreat, sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
I'm infatuated by the retreats because I think any retreat is always an amazing escape for anybody to kind of take a breath and rejuvenate and really, get that time to spend with themselves, because as we all know, as parents, we're always thinking about others and we don't take that time. And what made you kind of get the idea of doing these retreats and going to these amazing places and really helping people disconnect?
Such a great question. In 2016, my husband and I went with a Backroads company. It's a company that, travels all over for hiking and biking and whatever. And we both had always wanted to go to Peru. So we went to Peru with Backroads with some very, very dear friends of ours. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm home.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just how it felt. It's so spiritual and so feminine. And the owner, Carol Coombs, owns the place we stay called Wilkatika Guest House. And Ralph wasn't feeling well, so we missed a day of being out. So I had lunch with her, just met her. And by the end of lunch, I told her, I'm taking a group of women next year. I have no idea how to do this. I've never done this in my life. I'm bringing a group. And just like that, I got 12 women.
Was Ralph like, what the fuck?
Kind of. And now it's kind of like, I'm going to do this and this year. Oh, that sounds great. So that's how Peru happened. But you'll love the Italy retreat. So maybe a couple months after Mark departed, I had this dream at night. And the dream was I was putting dates together for my Italian retreats and my Peruvian retreats. And in the dream, I said, I'll go to Italy. And I woke up because I know he was planting the seed. And that's how that happened.
Can I share about Italy too?
What's that?
Can I share about Italy?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just going to share. I'll share a lot. But so Annamarie's also my therapist. When my dad passed away, she was one of the first people I reached out to and was like, can I come see you? So my dad passed away in August of 2021, and she got me in immediately, which God bless you, but got me in immediately. And we were talking about Italy. Because you probably just gotten back from Italy around the time, because I probably didn't get in back finishing up my dad's stuff, probably didn't get in to see you till later in the fall. I think you had just gotten back. And so we started talking about it. And I remember saying, I'm going next year with you. And there was no doubt in my mind. And it's I'm a very active person. I love to do a lot of things, and probably Peru, if I were to think about, because you said Peru is way more active, in Italy, you are just being. And at that moment I was like, I just need to be. I had been working on all of my, dad stuff, and I had felt pulled in so many directions, and I had been trying to distract myself to avoid feeling everything. And basically I was like, I just need to go somewhere and be. And that was it was like a giant warm hug for a week with all these amazing women, and it's curated, and there's time to be together and there's time to be solo, and it's absolutely stunning. But anyway, continue. So I just wanted to share my connection with the Italy.
Oh yes. And they're very different. Peru's active only because of all the hiking aspect. It's also incredibly spiritual. They're very different trips. They're both really wonderful in their own right. And I would have to say Peru's more intense, just because it kind of, you're opened wide open, whether you want to or not, spiritually.
Yeah.
And that creates a lot of emotions for quite a few of the women, right? And there's some intensity in Italy. It's very different. That is around women in transition, and take this week to just be. And you have time now this week to reassess. Do you need a restart? Do you need reset? What do you need to let go of not do anymore?
So every mom should be going on this Italy trip, is what you're saying, right? You should be booked until the end of time, because every single mom needs that.
Well, I mean, it's so interesting for me to watch, especially American women.
Yeah.
God love you all. It took, I don't know, from my perspective, maybe 48 hours before everyone could really lean in
Mm-hmm.
to just being. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I would actually even add on. So what's interesting is when I told Sean that I wanted to go, he was like, yeah, go. Like, no questions, like, go. But when I told other people what I was doing, and I said, I'm going on a retreat. And I knew Annamarie. I didn't know anybody else. And they were like, well, what are you going to do at the retreat? That was the first question. Second question was, so you're just going to go to Italy and you're not going to take your family? And I was like, yes. But I just found it so interesting that those were the two reactions people had. It wasn't good for you. That's amazing. It was those two things. What are you going to do while you're there? And like, basically, how dare you leave your family behind?
The judgment.
Yes. And Sean and Annamarie knows this too, but Sean and I are pretty intentional now. Like, he just went to Costa Rica for a week. I was like, go, it's your turn. Mm-hmm. And then we do stuff together. But I mean, I think that we should all be doing that.
Well, it's the guilt women carry about doing any one thing for themselves. And it's not that we sit around the entire week. There's a bit of structure. We meet maybe 3 times as a group, and there's plenty of time for journaling. There's plenty of time. The grounds are so big for walking. Jen ran every morning because she was training for a marathon, and a couple of other women did too. But it's a time of reflection. And it was just interesting to watch the tension of, oh, I'm not doing, and oh, I really want to lean in. And I had no criticism or judgment because I know how hard that is. And eventually they did. And I understand it's transformative so much that 2 women have repeated it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I was.
They just like the wine. Okay. Come on. They really like the wine out in Italy.
Well, no, there's that. And oh my gosh. And the food. And the food.
Oh, yeah.
And the surprises.
The surprises were amazing. And I will say a quick thing about the food, because I'm gluten-free and I was pretty worried. And Annamarie was like, nope, you're good. And I found out that Italy, I think it's Tuscany in particular that is one of the highest incidents of celiac.
Yep.
And
isn't that interesting?
I never would have expected gluten-free everywhere. There was one other thing that really surprised me. I'm sure it won't come back to me, but yeah. So I know the other thing. Do you remember how bad I wanted a single room?
Yeah.
So if anyone, I am fairly, I take after my dad. I'm fairly frugal. So I would totally be one to be I'll bunk with you, but I do like my own space. And I was like, I don't care. I'll pay the extra money to have my own room. And Annamarie was like, oh, they're both taken. And I was like, what am I going to do? So I'm like, all right, well, I'm still going to go. And it turned out that I ended up getting my own room. So it was amazing. I was like, okay, it just worked out the way it was.
And it was 2 weeks before, right? Or something like that.
That I have
and it's a synchronicity meant to be.
Yeah.
Because there's only so many rooms that you can have your own room without, because the villa only has enough room for 10 women.
Yeah.
So it's never a large group, ever.
And it was all ages. I mean, it was just such an amazing group of women. And
we had fun. We had so much fun. We laughed.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It was really fun. So that's fabulous. This year I'm not doing any retreats because this year is my complete self-care year.
I like that.
And I'm focusing completely on all levels of my health and to get to where I want to be, feeling really great again. And so I'm pretty sure I'll do Italy in 2025.
Yeah.
Well, I got you covered. I'm going to Italy beginning of June this year. So
oh, good.
I'll make sure that I give it your love while I'm there. We're doing a family trip. So.
Ralph and I are going in the fall.
Okay.
Because we kind of go every year because we just love Italy so much. So
you also have to share. I remember you telling this story too. So when you first had the idea of doing Italy, I think one of the things that went on in your brain were, how am I going to coordinate that? I don't know anybody. How am I going to coordinate that from here? And then Candace.
Oh, that's a great story. This woman, Candace Cricioni, she's Italian, and she was a backroads guide for Ralph and I when we went to Argentina. And this was 12 years ago, maybe. She was so special this woman was so special that I kind of kept up with her. And she was from Washington State. She eventually married a man from Florence, and they live outside of Florence with their now 3 little boys. And right before Mark departed, he and my husband, Ralph, and his dad wanted to go to the hike in the Dolomites, the Dolomites, right, in Italy. And that was Candace's specialty because she had quit backroads by then. So he emailed and said, would you be interested in planning this trip for us? So she did, which was amazing for both of them, especially with Mark departing 2 months later.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
And so when this idea of Italy came up for me, I had to have somebody there. I thought, oh, yeah, this is not going to work. I got to do this. So I emailed her and I told her what I was thinking and would she be interested. And she said, oh, we just decided I wasn't going to do anything until, at the time, the second one was in preschool, but I'm really intrigued with your program. Why don't you send it to me? I sent it to her. I heard from her within minutes. I'm in. So she does kind of on the ground stuff, and she the detail stuff, so the behind the scenes stuff, and she is a gem. She is the most wonderful human being I have ever met. And she does all this backroad stuff.
Yeah. It's a good connection.
It's a great connection because she's got that background. And actually, Ralph and Mark did a backroads trip, but not with backroads.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
they had all the experience. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he and I did that same exact trip in 2019. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He wanted me to experience that. It was really hard for him to describe kind of the magic of that hike, and I can see why.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on, and gosh, so much more. Also, what happened in 2020, let me back up a little bit. I was supposed to take a group to Peru November 2nd of 2017. Oh, Mark departed on October 30th.
Yeah.
They went anyway, and it all worked out. Synchronicity, they were taken care of. But man, that was hard. So instead of, packing hiking clothes, I'm packing for son and going to Florida for a memorial for our son. He was a firefighter in Palm Beach County. So I get back, and my first book, it's all going to come together. It's called The Alchemy of Grief. And that was my...
She's an author too, everyone. On top of all this, she's a writer.
And that was my dissertation I transformed into the public and for required reading for my grief therapy class at Regis. So my editor is Jennifer Phelps, who edited that book. So unbeknownst to me, I get back from Florida, and I get text from her saying that their daughter had departed 6 days before Mark.
Wow.
And she didn't know about Mark.
Yeah.
And so I told her about Mark, and we were just like, are you kidding me? So we decided we started to meet for lunch and just share what was starting to be visits from both of them. big time visits, spiritual visits. And she said, I think we need to write a book. And I just took a deep breath and thought, I don't know how I could write a book about this. Nobody should ever have to write a book about this.
Yeah.
And we did. We started in March of 2020. And because of COVID, it was called Writing Wednesdays. And so we would meet on Zoom and read to one another what each had written. And it took 3 years, and we launched it October 28th of last year. And it's called The Spiritual Proof of Presence.
I'm showing Lori right now.
It's amazing, Jenny. You probably obviously read it. I look forward.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I don't know how we did it. It is so beautiful. I'm sure Mark and Lindsay helped us write it, because I look back and I think, because that was the most gut-wrenching thing to do and the most healing. So yeah, but it's because I did it, and because grief is my specialty, always has been.
Yeah.
Here I am today. And I believe more than anything, because I know conscious grief so well, I think I was being prepared for this.
I was just going to say this. I was just going to point that connection of like your journey led you to be prepared for your own personal, tragedy.
Absolutely.
Right?
And, we have such a negative projection in our culture on death in general and grief. And actually, I'm happy to say where we are now in these bodies is not the only game in town. Yeah. There is a next life, and we have proof of that with how these children of ours continue to visit us, come to my dream time. And one of the last big giant visits I got from Mark, big, was the book arrived, and I had 3 or 4 external readers. So we got copies for them, and it's the first time I'd really seen it. And it was very mixed emotions, right? So it's on the front, they're on the front porch, and I'm like, ugh. Yeah. So I went out and brought him in. I was in the den, and I was very emotional and like, ugh. And Ralph was in the den with me, and all of a sudden his cell phone rang. And he looked at it, and he came over to me, and it said Mark Rice, our son's name, our son. So he was able to go through so many energy fields to make that phone ring. His number was given away 6 years ago.
Isn't that crazy? That's one of my favorite. I love that story.
I got like chills, like you said that, and it's
and
just
that's
like
one
this,
of
wow.
That's one of 50, 100. Wow. So he's with me all the time. He protects us. He guides us. The veil is so thin. And so when I get somebody in my practice that's had a significant death loss, I've always been able to feel their loved ones in my office. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they'll say, ask her this, or, and I do. And because they're alive.
I haven't made you ask my dad anything, but now I'm going to.
Oh, yeah. They deliver the goods much more than we do for one another. They're just kind of waiting to be called on.
Yeah.
So, it's been an incredible life. And I did not want to survive his departure. I wanted to thrive. Mm-hmm. And this book is about giving hope to, of course, mainly mothers, of course, fathers too, or anybody, that only their bodies die. They're very, very much alive. That you have to do something critical to join them. You have to get out of your ego.
Yeah.
Because it's the ego that says, did that phone really ring? Was that really him?
Right.
Oh my God, there wasn't a feather there a minute ago. Is that a feather? Is that him? It's them.
Yeah.
Every time. Whatever they bring.
So Annamarie, I have a question. I always wonder this because I have a sister-in-law, and she used to say that they lived in a house that was, I would say haunted because I don't like using that terminology, but had a spirit that was there, and she would give examples of, cabinets being open or visions being seen. Is that something you've ever experienced yourself as actual visions, or is it more just a feeling?
I hear and I hear. So electricity is a big thing with them. So our lights in our den on and off, on and off. I mean, just constantly. And just when I was in such a despair, so he would do something.
Yeah.
And yeah, I have a sweet friend who asked if I'd come over to, it was her brother-in-law who took his life.
Mm-hmm.
And in his garage. So the house wasn't selling. Would I come over and get a sense? And I walked into the garage, and I just the energy. So he was still there.
Yeah.
Right?
Interesting.
And so his brother, I had sage and whatever I needed, and I just was coaching his brother to talk to his brother that had departed and just tell him it's all okay for him to move on. And it was about an hour's worth of work to smudge the garage, and I guess within 2 weeks the house sold.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's
And
impressive.
so I think it depends on the death in a home. And it's like, just ask them what they want.
Yeah.
Right.
Instead of get out of here.
The resistance, right? It's instead of resisting, be curious, accept, have a conversation, like whatever, they can still hear you.
Yeah. What do you need? What are you asking of me?
Yeah.
What can I do for you?
I need to ask you this because kids are so fascinating. I remember a friend of mine telling me years ago that until they're like 7 years old, they're close enough to birth that they can still communicate with the other side, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if I've ever told you this, but it was so funny because I remember putting Alyssa down to bed that night, and I was like, I asked her questions like, who did you, or what's your purpose? Like, what are you here for? I'm here to go to bed. I was like, no, but what are you here? Like, what do you, it was so, I was dying. I was laughing so hard. So anyway, I was like, she's too far gone, but
she's too old.
It's done. She's too old. But so for Henry and Ophelia, like, have they ever said anything? Have they seen him?
Oh, they see him, and it's pre-verbal before they were really talking. But no, she didn't. I believe he played with her before she came in because she's just going to be 5.
Yeah.
Henry would feel him in his room at night, kind of tucking him in, he would say.
Oh my God.
And literally, we saw this light on the monitor one night.
Yeah.
In his room.
Oh, that's
over the crib. We did. And I know it was Mark.
Yeah.
So he's still very close to him, and she's just upset because she wants to see him.
Yeah.
You know what they asked for Christmas? What they wanted for Christmas?
To see him.
To go up to the clouds so they could see him.
Oh my God. Right?
I just burst into tears, and I thought, oh, bless your little hearts, and I can't really explain much more to you about this.
Isn't that interesting, though? Because, I mean, that's the part that's hardest for us, even at 50. I want to just talk to him, see him, and hear him talk back, right? Or you want to hear your loved one respond to you. And I mean, it's like,
that's why the dreams are so comforting to me. So when Mark visits my dreams, we're always doing normal stuff, which is usually eating a great meal together.
Yeah.
And one of the most wonderful dreams I had, Jen, shortly after the book launch.
Yeah.
This is an incredible dream. I was on a bike on a newly paved road, but it was narrow, and I was going along the road, the street or road, and God, there were semis coming by me, and I kept getting kind of knocked off either by wind, but I wasn't hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, Mark shows up in this white shirt. You know, Mark was gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous.
And she's not just saying that, like, it's not just mom goggles. Her kids are beautiful.
And he said to me, Mom, you're going to love this. Mom, I'm calling an Uber for you. And I'm going to have them not only pick you up, I'm going to have them pick you and your bike up. Because, Mom, get this, you never have to get on that road again.
Oh.
Which was falling off. Isn't that something?
I love it.
That's incredible. I've had more chills in the last
I know
45 minutes. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I mean, it's just, I just had a friend that recently passed, and it was the first friend, like really, an acquaintance that I'd known for a couple of years. And she passed away of second battle with breast cancer. And I went to her memorial last week, and it was just as sad as it was. Like, it was, like you said, the energy, the smiles, the just presence, you just felt it. Like
the love.
That's from me not having any kind of connection or being immediate or anything like that. It was just the love. And it was like crying. It was okay. Like it was that, and we all know that when people we love pass, but it was incredible. It was a really, I think the sweetest thing that was said is she was 52, but she did what she needed in 52 years that it takes others 70 and 80 to do.
And that's how we felt about Mark. He lived the life of maybe a 90-year-old. He lived life.
Yeah.
And it was time for him to move on. Probably he stayed here a little too long.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that with all my heart. I wasn't going to do well if I said, I've been cheated and robbed.
Yeah.
Mark was not mine to keep. Christine's not mine to keep.
Yeah.
But one more thing I want to really share is what's so important is, of course, I wanted to die and I knew I needed to live. I lived for me, not for Christine. If I live for me, then she benefits, and so do her kids, my grandchildren, and my wonderful spouse.
Yeah.
You see that? Because that's a pressure to put on Christine.
Say it again. It's so
important. I lived for myself. I didn't want to put that pressure on Christine to live for her.
Mm-hmm.
If I live for me and I'm healthy in all ways, she benefits from me, as do these amazing grandchildren and my spouse, right? So I just have to say that. And that's a hard thing to hear for a lot of women.
Yeah.
And then a lot of women that just have such a hard time tending themselves, quiet time, right? Mm-hmm. What do they want? And you're juggling 2 kids and carpools and you got to carve it out. Can I share my website?
Yes. Oh my gosh. We want to ask about that. But we do have one more question. We have just a few minutes. What are you most excited about? If you can just sum that up in, a quick little blurb of you have lived. Your life is incredible. What you're doing is incredible. I mean, like I said, the feelings that you've evoked just hearing what you've had to say today is so genuinely it's awesome. But what are you most excited about?
Well, I'm most excited about living the best life I can and making a difference in other people's lives. I'm most excited to share what might have worked for me whenever, so they maybe don't have to go through so much. Mm-hmm. I'm most excited to continue to serve others. I love that so much. And I've learned all about boundaries and all that. So all that's good. And I love helping people. So that's what I'm continued to be excited about.
And
and those children.
Yes. And her new puppy, by the way. So cute.
Oh my.
Oh, did you get a new puppy too?
You both have new puppies.
I got a new
Her
puppy.
name is Molly. Her middle name I named her is Mayhem. She's a miniature golden doodle.
Aren't they so much fun? Oh my gosh, we should talk puppy talk. Oh my gosh,
we love her so much. She'll be 6 months old this month.
Oh,
yeah. So she's doing a lot of puppy stuff.
Oh. Yeah. You'll have to send pictures. We'll have to go back and forth with some pictures.
We love her, but I can't. Yeah, she's fun.
Well, I will say one of the things that, even though you're not teaching at Regis anymore, like, you are a teacher. You've been a teacher the whole time. And that's the thing, like, I was thinking the other day, like, all these threads, they all connect, in all of our lives. And that's one of the things that I love about doing this podcast, is that we've listened to so many stories now, and you can see a common thread throughout their whole life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I want to go back to what you said earlier about being prepared. I was prepared for all this. Yeah. Well, I've also been prepared to run these retreats through my private practice and teaching.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh, that's the perfect background. Yeah. And it is the perfect background. And the intuition. It's like, oh, this is sweet. I'm so great. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to be here right now with you, to learn to stay in the moment and stay out of the future as much as I can. Because look what's happened right now. This intimacy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It's awesome.
We're grateful for you. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Jenny said I was going to love you, and I love you. I'm like,
I hope I get to meet you.
You will.
Yes, we'll have to. Please share your website. We'll also put that on our podcast in the notes.
Oh, thank you.
And the book too, and the title of the books.
Website is it's celebratethegoddesswithin.com. And the two books, The Alchemy of Grief, and then the second book is Spiritual Proof of Presence.
I like that. I look forward to reading them both. Yes, we will definitely put all the links to that. I'm sure we'll have a lot of listeners very excited to get a read.
Thank you so much. This was such a gift.
Thank you so much.
You're generous. You're very generous for your time.
You are, for your time, and we're so grateful to have you. I'm so excited to share you with everybody.
Thanks for listening. Until next time, keep being you and keep being badass.